You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
I mean, I think I'm nervous every time I go in the ring, whether it's the Grand Prix or the .80s. It's usually not because I worry about failure or something going wrong, but just that I want to do well and I want to give the horse a good ride and have them do well. And I think probably the best way to conquer those nerves, or at least to make them a little less, is to just have a good plan. And if you really focus on what you want to be doing out there, what you're supposed to be doing all the way around the course, and think about it step by step and fence by fence, that kind of puts your mind focus on something other than how nervous you are. You know, confidence plays such a crucial role in this sport for both the horse and the rider. So if you can practice the things that are difficult for you, that's going to give you more confidence that when you go in the ring, you know, you're going to be able to accomplish what you want to accomplish. And I think that is also really will help your nerves as well. Just having that confidence and having the idea that I've done this before, I can do it again.
Welcome to the Practical Horseman podcast, featuring conversations with respected riders, industry leaders, and horse care experts. The show is co-hosted by Practical Horseman editors, and our goal is to inform, educate, and inspire. I'm Kathleen Landwehr, and this week's episode is with international show jumper Laura Chapot. Laura and I spoke in mid-September after she competed at the Devon Fall Classic, following a busy summer competition schedule along the East Coast. To give you a little more background on Laura, she comes from a prolific equestrian family. Her late father, Frank Chapot, was a 6-time Olympian and longtime U.S. jumping team chef d'equipe. Her mother, Mary Chapot, is a 2-time Olympian, and her sister, Wendy, is an active competitor as well. Laura is a skilled equestrian in her own right, representing the U.S. on several Nations Cup teams and helping earn team bronze at the 2007 Pan American Games with Little Big Man. Over the summer, Laura won the $75,000 Richard M. Feldman Grand Prix with Chandon Blue at the Lake Placid Horse Shows in New York. In our discussion, Laura talks about what it was like growing up in a family competing at the highest levels of the sport, her routine at competitions, and her training philosophy. Before getting into the conversation with Laura, I'd like to share a word from this episode's sponsor, SmartPak. Even the best cared for horse can colic, but you don't have to go through it alone. With Colic Care by SmartPak, your horse gets daily comprehensive hindgut support, and you get up to $15,000 in colic surgery reimbursement. Give your horse the best care available and receive your own peace of mind in return. Choose Colic Care and enroll now by calling 1-800-461-8898 or visiting smartpack.com/coliccare. Now, let's jump right into the conversation with Laura, where she begins by talking about why she enjoys show jumping.
Well, I think that one of the things I really like about show jumping is it's so challenging. You know, every time you go in a ring, there's a different course, it's a different challenge, there's different tests, and the problems you have with the horses, you know, just having to find the adjustability with them. I think that's really it. There's so many more aspects to show jumping, and like I said, you know, every time you go in the ring, there's always something different to think about. Even if you have a horse that you're pretty steady with, always a different challenge really makes it interesting. And I really also think that the horses seem to really enjoy show jumping. They can really get into the game, and they have a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. What is it about horses and the sport that have been kept you involved for so long?
No, I think I really enjoy the horses and their different personalities and establishing a relationship with them. We've taken a lot of young horses and brought them along, and that challenge is always interesting and exciting. And they're always teaching us something as much as we're trying to teach them. They're constantly teaching us more and more about themselves and about what they like and not like and what works and what doesn't.
Awesome. And I guess, can you tell me like how long you have been riding? Because I imagine it's been quite a while.
Yeah, pretty much since we were able to walk, we were on a horse. So it's great having parents that were so involved with the sport, because then from an early age, we always had the opportunity to ride. So it's pretty much been forever.
Awesome. Very cool. Could you talk about, some of the most important or influential horses that you've had in your life, and, who they are and what they were like and why they were influential?
No, I really think that just about every horse I've ever ridden has had some impact on me. I think sometimes even the more difficult ones probably have influenced me more than the easier ones. Even as a junior, and we did a lot of thoroughbreds, and we would transition some steeplechase horses because my dad was involved with the steeplechasing. So we make some steeplechase horses into show jumpers, and that takes a lot of patience and just thought about the balance and thinking about what the horse is thinking and what the horse's mindset is. So, really all the horses have something to teach you. As far as my career is concerned, probably Gem Twist and Little Big Man were probably the most, the greatest horses for my career. And certainly such a joy to ride, both those horses. They're very, very special. And for sure, Gem, I would consider probably one of the top 10 horses in the world ever.
Yeah, I mean, could you talk a little bit about Gem Twist? That was, just kind of what he was like to ride, and what he also meant to your family, because I believe your father, he bred and trained Gem Twist. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, the horse meant a lot to my family because he was bred at our farm. We had him, Michael Golden bought him as a 3-year-old and brought him back for my dad to train, and then he rode him for a while. So our history with Gem was completely involved with our family. And he was a very much a professional. In the barn, he's not the kind of huggable horse, and more of a professional kind of horse. And he liked his space, but he liked his time. And when he got in the ring, he just grew enormously. Everyone used to think he was such a big horse, and he really wasn't he was a normal size horse, but he wasn't a huge horse. And he would tend to be a little lazy at home, kind of kick him along. But as soon as he knew the ring and he knew his job, and he probably knew it better than his rider, he knew exactly what to do.
Awesome. Yeah, he was, such a prolific horse for sure. And like you said, so memorable to a lot of people. What are your most important or favorable wins?
I guess I've been really blessed to have won so many memorable classes on so many different horses. But thinking about it, probably one of the ones that really stood out the most to me was winning the World Cup Grand Prix at Toronto on Gem Twist. At the time, it was a World Cup qualifier, and I was part of the U.S. team when they had teams still there. And my dad was the chef de keep that year, and it was televised. And I remember watching the video of him jumping every single jump in the jump off with me, and just the expression on his face when we won it. It was, like I said, we had such a history with that horse, and he meant so much to our family, and to have it all come together like that was really priceless. It was a great moment.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And while the sport often you hope for some big achievements and wins, there can be times when things don't go as planned. And how do you feel like you handle some of those less than desirable moments when you maybe don't win something that you would hope to?
Well, I think, unfortunately, in this sport, we tend to lose more than we win. So you have to come to accept that. But I think if you come with a mindset to be focused on having the best round for your horse where it is in its career, I think that's a good way to to think about it, because then if your round, sometimes it's not going to be a good enough round to win the class, but you've got to be satisfied that you've done a good job and the horses perform well. And sometimes that's going to win you the class, and sometimes you're just going to be okay. You're going to be in the top 6, or maybe you don't even get a ribbon. But if you've accomplished your job and made some improvement, then that in itself has to be a win to you. I think when things really go wrong and you have a really bad round, then I think you have to give yourself a moment to, you can kick yourself for a minute, but then the best thing to do is really to just go back and analyze why it happened and what you need to do to make sure that the situation doesn't happen again. So where did it go wrong? What do I need to do to improve? And that's the only way to look at it, because no one wants to quit. No one wants to, you feel terrible at the time, but then you got to say, look, it's not something that has to be repeated. How do I make it better?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Those moments happen, and often learning opportunities, and hopefully make it better the next time out. Do you ever get nervous competing, or maybe in the past? And if so, how do you handle nerves, or did you handle your nerves?
I mean, I think I'm nervous every time I go in the ring, whether it's the Grand Prix or the .80s. It's usually not because I worry about failure or something going wrong, but just that I want to do well and I want to give the horse a good ride and have them do well. And I think probably the best way to conquer those nerves, or at least to make them a little less, is to just have a good plan. And if you really focus on what you want to be doing out there, what you're supposed to be doing all the way around the course, and think about it step by step and fence by fence, that kind of puts your mind focus on something other than how nervous you are. Confidence plays such a crucial role in this sport for both the horse and the rider. So if you can practice the things that are difficult for you, that's going to give you more confidence that when you go in the ring, you're going to be able to accomplish what you want to accomplish. And I think that is also really will help your nerves as well. Just having that confidence and having the idea that I've done this before, I can do it again.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Having those plans are so important. And, especially if you do get nervous, to remember your plan and go back to it. And kind of at competitions, do you have a routine that you like to follow?
No, I don't think I have any specific routine before a class, but I just like to be prepared. And if the course is up early, I'd like to look at it. I kind of have it in my mind already how the pattern goes. That way I'm not having to think about where's the next fence, but more of what I should be doing. And I also like to know that everything as far as the tack and the preparation of the horse is organized and it's going like it's supposed to be done. And that way I can just really focus on my job and my part of the equation.
No, yeah, those are definitely good points to competition at any level with showing horses. So thinking of training, how would you describe your training philosophy?
Well, I think I like to think of every horse as an individual, and they have to be treated each based on what their needs are. I think when you're training any horse, you need to recognize what the horse's mindset is. Sometimes you're not going to get to change that as much as you like, but if you can get them to focus in the right direction, that's probably half the battle. Another thing that I think is important, and I always stress, is not to distract the horse from its job. It's not to say that you don't give the horse all the key elements, balance, pace, direction to jump the jump, but those last few steps before the jump are really crucial for the horse to judge how it's going to clear the fence. My dad always used to say, let them jump clean, which basically in essence means stay out of the horse's way. If you have a good horse, it's going to try and jump clean, and anything you do, those last few steps, anything radical other than just supporting them, is probably going to distract them from the job and could cause a fall. And I think one of the last things I always like to stress as far as importance to me, as far as training, is always to start small and build up. Whether it's in a lesson or in a competition, you're just going to get in a lot of trouble by doing something that's too hard for you, that you're not quite ready for. If you start easy and then go too hard, it'll always end up being a little bit better in the end. A lot of people want to rush themselves or rush their horse and jump the next level, maybe before they're quite ready. And that's usually a recipe for taking 2 steps forward and 10 steps backwards. And especially if you have especially careful horse, you never want to show them what they can't do or what they can't do yet, because sometimes you'll never come back. If you break their heart, it's really hard to regain their trust and confidence, and sometimes you might not at all. But if you go step by step, I think you build that confidence, build that rider's confidence, build that horse's confidence. Then they may go well beyond what they ever anticipated they might ever be capable of. So, like I said earlier, confidence is such an important part of this game. You're better off playing it a little safe. Say, I wish I knew I could do that, but we didn't. We started slow. We went a little lower, rather than regretting doing something that was a little over your head, and now you're in a real spot now.
Yeah, definitely. Just great points about the horse, treating the horse as an individual and starting small. And, I've heard from various trainers too, when their horses are super careful, they're already trying really hard, and you don't want to, discourage them from the good work they're already doing.
It's always better to do something that's easy for them. Give it, like I said, that confidence is so important. And because the way we communicate with a horse is just through feel, and we can't specifically talk to them, I think that you really got to be aware of that.
Sure, definitely. So, how would you describe your teaching style when working with students?
I think I always want to stress the positive rather than the negative. I don't think anyone intends to ride poorly. So I think it's important to focus on what they can do rather than what they shouldn't do. Not to say that there aren't little boundaries that you set for them, but at the same time, I think if you think in the positive rather than don't do this, you should say do this and it'll work. I think people respond to that better, and I think in the end that works a little better for their mindset to be positive.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely. It's always helps to focus on the positive and what to work on in that area. Is there something when you like with working with students that kind of keeps coming up as something your students often need to work on?
I think pace is a really hard thing for people to figure, because it's different with every horse, and it's different to recognize as you're going around a course as well. I think that comes with building a relationship with a horse. And sometimes it's always difficult when you're going, that first fence is always a trouble maker for a lot of people, because it's hard to establish a rhythm when you're picking up the canter and just going to the first fence. You always kind of wonder, couldn't I just start with number 2? Can we just dismiss number 1 and make number 2 the first jump? But it's just getting into that rhythm and into that pace and recognizing what they have as they go around the course, that they're not getting too fast or the horse isn't getting too long strided or strung out. Those are the things they have to think about, and that's really comes from feel. It's not something that you can quantify. It's not mechanical, and it's different for every horse. So I think that that's a hard thing to recognize, but that comes with time, and that comes with doing it, and that comes with going in the ring a lot and learning it.
Yeah, definitely. It's so important with jumping and, riding horses in general, but especially of jumping a course, and something that pretty much anyone could work on. In terms of like exercises, do you have a favorite exercise that you like to do? And if so, can you describe what that exercise is?
I don't know if I have just one exercise specifically. Like to do a lot of pulls on the ground, and I know it's not the same as jumping jumps, but I think it's good practice for riders, and it's not too much stress on the horse, because you don't really want to be pounding them, but at the same time you want to be practicing yourself. But in lessons or if I'm doing a clinic, I always like, a short approach, a long approach. And if there's room, I think 3 jumps in a row is a really good exercise because it gets you to think quickly. Because it's not just, if 2 jumps seems simple, you either pull or you kick. But once you have 3 in a row, how the third one rides is very dependent on how you meet the second one and how much pace you have. And did the horse jump straight up or did the horse jump straight out? And I think that gets riders thinking about what kind of jump they're having rather than just, oh, this is a long distance, so I need to kick. It's like, did you jump straight in the air? Is the horse landing with a lot of pace? Is the horse landing with a big stride? And recognizing how that feels. And then they have to react very quickly. So 3 jumps in a row, if there's space for it, is always a good test. But basically you want to I always when I'm building a course or doing some exercise, just try and throw in all the elements that you'll find in a course somehow.
Oh, yeah, those are great exercises to work on. All the, riders and horses thinking and working on a lot of different parts of their ride. So I guess just kind of, which maybe I should have led with this, kind of talking a bit about your family background, because I feel like you go without needing an introduction, but you just come from a really prolific equestrian family. Your late father, Frank Chapot, was a 6-time Olympian and a longtime U.S. jumping team chef to keep. And your mother, Mary Chapot, was a 2-time Olympian, and your sister, Wendy, is also an active competitor. So what was it like growing up with such an active equestrian family?
I think it was wonderful to be so deeply involved with all aspects of the sport from such a young age. My parents weren't only great riders, but they're also involved with a lot of other aspects, horse designing, judging, with the USEF on the boards. We bred a lot of horses. We transitioned thoroughbreds. We really had exposure to so many elements of the horse world, which was great. And it made it feasible for my sister and I to ride, to have a built-in trainer and a facility, because that probably wouldn't have been possible for us otherwise. So we really learned a lot that way. And, my parents were just my parents. I looked up to them a lot, and I don't think I really felt a lot of pressure from at the outside to do well. If anything, I probably put more pressure on myself, just always wanting to do the best I could to make them proud. And I never would have imagined myself ever being half as good as they are. They're just both such genius riders and had such a way with the horses, such an incredible feel, that if I could become half as good as them, I would have achieved something. They were so helpful to me as far as training. And just like anyone, my drive in the ring was to make them proud. To see the smile on my mom's face, the thumbs up from my dad, or a good job, was such a great way to enjoy the success that we had, because we know how much it took to get there. And we're all part of the team that made it happen.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Yeah. It's kind of, they're obviously knowing a lot of what you experienced. I'm sure they experienced it themselves when they were throughout their careers. And just, yeah, it seems like there'd be a lot of really great understanding and I'm sure a lot of great advice. Do you feel like there was what are some of the biggest takeaways that you feel like you got from your parents over the years?
I think the one thing that is always been stressed is that the horse comes first. The horse is absolutely the number one, and sometimes that means you have to sacrifice what might be best for yourself as far as your practice and training for the best interest of the horse. There's no over jumping, or you're always thinking how to preserve your horse for as long as possible and keep them happy. Obviously we're all are hard workers and nothing comes easy. So That's always been part of my life. And I think one of the other things my dad would be known for, and I would follow suit, is not to complicate things. Make things simple. Simple is good, and take the good with the bad and persevere no matter what. Back in the day, when my parents were riding, there were a lot more teams that were 3 people. So every round counted. And the worst thing you could possibly do is pull up and not finish the course. So that's kind of ingrained in me as well. You never give up. You always persevere. You don't, it's not that there's someone else is there to save you. You have to try your best and do your best to finish whatever you started.
No, yeah, that's really great lessons for sure. Especially with horses, you often need to persevere through some tough moments or tough rides, and kind of continue progressing towards goals and whatnot. So we've covered a lot of my questions, so they kind of just have a couple wrap-up questions. Why do you think you've been as successful as you have been as a rider?
Well, I think probably, I owe a lot to my parents, who have done really well to help me along the way, training me and giving me the right mindset. And basically, I think I try to listen to the horses and to what they, let them speak to me as to what what helps them thrive the best. I would say, if you look at their expression, you look at their eye, you look at how they're moving, you look at how they respond to something you're doing. And if something's not working, then you try something else. Just always reacting to how the horse reacts rather than having a single mindset as to this is the way it's going to go. And I think that for our part, we've never been able to afford, the perfect horses. So I tend to get horses that always have some little difficulty. And I think when you're dealing with horses like that, you always have to be aware of where is their mind and what is it going to take to get them to do the job the way you want them to.
No, yeah, it's great advice for sure. Just listening to horses and seeing what they have to say and, responding accordingly. Kind of just thinking about equestrian sport. What is the hardest part of the sport for you?
I think not just being able to talk to the horses and have them talk back. Sometimes you're just always guessing as to if what you're doing is helping or working, or what is this horse thinking. They're really like puzzles. It's a bit of a mystery sometimes what makes them tick, and some horses are for sure are easier than others, but especially with the more difficult ones, it's just trying to solve the puzzle and put all the pieces in the right slots. And sometimes you think that piece is in the right slot, and it looks like it fits, but it actually doesn't match. So you gotta find a different way. And just trying to solve those problems that they have, it's not always so easy. And then you think you know the horse, and then they show you that you don't know anything about them. It's just they're always changing. It's not like a car and you've mastered it. Even when you've gone well with the horse, then something might happen to the horse. My horse might change a little bit, and then you feel like you need to adjust your ride once again. So it's never simple.
Oh, yeah, that's so true. Just there's kind of so many details, and often wondering what is my horse thinking, and how can we do better?
You wish they could just tell you what they want you to do. It would be much easier.
Yeah. So thinking, do you have any advice that you would give your younger self by chance?
I don't know that there's a whole lot that I could tell myself. I think I am what I am because of everything that I've lived. So I don't know that there's so much to say. I had a great upbringing, and I had a lot of luck and a lot of success and a lot of opportunities, which was really fortunate, that I had great people surrounding me. So I'm sure I have plenty of regrets and plenty of things that I would have done differently. But I think you always want to do over, and your life is never going to be perfect, and you never get all those chances. That's part of life, and that's part of the sport, and that's part of living it. And you probably are who you are because of those things. If nothing ever went wrong, like I tell people in a lesson, if you didn't do it wrong, you wouldn't have learned anything today. If you came out here and jumped the course perfectly, the lesson was worthless. So it's better to have done something wrong and fix it and move on. And I think that goes with life as well. For sure, we would have liked every class to go perfectly and won everything we possibly could and had many successes. But sometimes those downturns and the difficult times are what make us what we are today. And we learn a lot from them. And hopefully we end up better people and better riders and better trainers, better horsemen. That's the most important part.
No, absolutely. I know I'm a bit of a perfectionist and can overthink sometimes, and it's important to, not everything's going to go right, and that's okay. That's part of life and part of riding horses for sure. Um, is there something that people don't know about that you could share? I know people don't always have ideas, but I don't know if there's hidden talents or something.
I don't know so much about that. I've so much focused on the riding now. When we were kids, we used to do a lot of other things because our parents would love to give us the opportunity to do all kinds of different activities and make us choose riding as the right activity. But my focus is I can't imagine doing anything else at this point. I think we're so blessed to have the opportunity to make us our living. And we could be sitting in an office staring at a computer, and that would be a sad life for me personally. I just am grateful to have the opportunity to work with these horses that give so much of themselves for us and do so much for us. And I think that's a unique opportunity that we have. For sure, I would have to say one thing that people might not know is that I'm very straightforward and open person, and I'd like to give any horse and any people as well opportunities, like regardless of what history they may have, if the horse has not been good in the past or whatever. I'm really open to giving everyone a chance, people as well. It's you gotta look towards the future, and if someone's willing to give you their all, and same thing with a horse, I think you got to give them the opportunity, and I don't mind doing that.
Awesome. Yeah, it's who doesn't deserve an opportunity, horse or human, especially if you had some.
Well, I think it's good to be, like I said, I'm straightforward, I'm open-minded, I'm not closed off to anything. I like different ideas. People come to me with different ideas. I'm always looking for different ideas. Never think I know half of as much as I need to know to be involved with this sport. So, whether it's people or horses or whatever, like I said, you got to look for opportunities and take what you can.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's a good way to think about it for sure. So, what is next for you and your horses?
So next thing for us is Harrisburg, which is a great horse show. I hope people come out and enjoy it. It's got a great history to it, and I think it proves they've done so much work to that facility and to rebuild the structure of that show, that not every horse show has to be the top FEI horse show, to attract a great crowd and great people. There's place for a middle ground. It doesn't have to be the top level, and it doesn't have to be beginner, and at the same time be a really great spot and opportunity for a lot of people to do what they do. It's become very difficult at the top of the sport now. It costs a lot of money, and not so many people can afford to be paying thousands and thousands of dollars just to enter and then not have a chance of winning it back. So I think that we all should really support these horse shows that provide an opportunity for us to have a little bit of a middle ground where we can go out and show and still be competitive and involved with the sport. And it doesn't have to cost everyone a fortune.
Sure, no, yeah. Horse showing can definitely add up, and it's great that there are so many showing opportunities for, across the country. And I've been to Harrisburg. I got to go last year for the first time. It was a really nice show.
They've done a wonderful job, and it's been a huge part of the equestrian sport in this country, and continues to be. And so I think it's great that people do come out and support it and come to watch, or whether they catch it on the live stream. Hopefully it continues to be a great part of the showing in this country.
Thanks for listening to this week's conversation with Laura Chapot, and a big thank you to the episode sponsor, SmartPack. Learn more at smartpackequine.com. You can subscribe to the Practical Horseman podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. While you're there, please rate and review the show. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Kathleen Landwehr, and you've been listening to the Practical Horseman podcast.